Great. Literally talking to you and hearing my own voice behind me is like my Black Mirror nightmare, so it can't happen, not today. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to the Miami Tropic, our newest and one of our most exciting projects that we just recently announced with Terra Group. My name is Kane Sarhan. I'm the co-founder and chief creative officer of The Well. And I'm here today with a panel of some of our, what we call masters. At The Well, we started The Well to bring together the world's best practitioners and to create a home for them to practice what they're the best at. My business partners, Rebecca and Sarah and I, we're not doctors, we're not healers, we're individuals who had each navigated different health concerns and issues throughout our lives, and really we're just looking for a place where we could put all of our favorite things that made us healthier, better, stronger, less stress, find better sleep in one place. And from the beginning, the thought was always, you can build a beautiful place, you can create a gorgeous spa or a stunning gym, you can build a beautiful building, but if you don't have the software, our masters, the people to power it, it's relatively useless, right? I think anyone who's ever seen a luxury building with a gorgeous gym or a massage room or some game rooms, what does it do? It collects dust, right? You pay for these amenities, use these amenities, but they're never actually activated. They're not powered. They don't have the infrastructure to actually make them come to life. And I think that's one of the most special and interesting things about what we do, especially as it relates to our residential projects, and that it's really the genius and the experience and the specialty of the people who are up here with me today that really bring to life the spaces that we build. And so today we decided to focus our conversation on what we're talking about is the L word. Not the shows about lesbians from the 2000s, but longevity. It seems every few years there's a new buzzword in wellness, and the L word has definitely taken over. And it's quickly followed by words like peptides, or testosterone, or hormone replacement therapy, or NAD+, or. And what we decided to do is I wanted to bring together some of my favorite folks that we work with to really talk to you about what this means, what the L word means, what you should do and not do when it comes to this space, where you should be investing your money and where you're being ripped off, and specifically talk about how we help our owners navigate this space, actually extend their life, actually extend their quality of life, actually optimize, improve, and grow, and how we can help your clients, yourselves, do that as well. So before we jump in, I'm going to give everyone a quick 30 seconds to introduce themselves, tell you who they are, tell you where they're from, and then we'll jump into the conversation. Priscilla.
Thank you. And as always, thank you for the Well team and Kane for such a lovely introduction to have us here. My name is Priscilla Hawthorne, and I am the CEO and founder of The Maximum Life. It's a longevity clinic. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. And I have here with me great partners today, not only with The Well, where we can actually get our longevity activated with their tools and their locations and their beliefs, but also some of my great partners with stem cells and one of my doctors at peptides. I would love them to introduce themselves, but this is who I am. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Dr. Matthias Perno, flew in from Stockholm, Sweden yesterday. I am co-founder of Cell Clubs, the world's fastest growing pharmaceutical level producer of mesenchymal stem cells. And I challenge you today, ask me anything on stem cells, and if I haven't heard the question before, if it's relevant to stem cells, I'm going to buy you a healthy drink afterwards. I spend my time traveling the world. I lecture to politicians, regulators, university hospitals, professors, and people generally interested in stem cells. If there's something you should know, I can tell you.
All right, I'm Dr. Sean Siddiqui, so I do work with the Maximum Life. I'm board certified in family medicine and now practicing functional medicine, longevity medicine, and regenerative medicine. So really excited to have this talk with you guys today.
So I think I want to frame our conversation today. Who here works in real estate? Hands high, almost everyone, yeah. I assume so, that's the goal. I want to frame our conversation today first to talk about the importance of where we live, and then we're going to jump into the longevity side and specifically some more deep dives into what these guys do and how you can actually implement it into your life. Just a quick question, and feel free to answer and don't be scared about being wrong. What percentage of your life from 0 to 100 do you think you're going to spend inside? And if you work with me or if I've asked you this question before, you're not allowed to answer. Someone want to take a guess?
Maybe like 80%?
80%? Low. Anyone else got another one? You got a free cheat. I mean, 80 to 100 is not hard.
90.
92.
Wow.
You're going to spend 92% of your time indoors. I know, you like want to puke when you hear it, right? Between your home, your work, shopping, errands, vacations, you name it, you're going to spend 92% of your life indoors. And so when you think about that, think about how often you are evaluating the space that you spend time in as it relates to your health. Until a couple years ago, mine was a total of 0, right? Other than like, oh, I go take care of my health at the gym, oh, I go take care of my health at the doctor, the actual physical space that I was in never actually crossed my mind. But when you think about the fact that with 92% of your time spent indoors, that means 92% of recycled or reused air, that means 92% of off-gassing and materials that are touching you, that means 92% of light that disrupts your circadian rhythm, you really start to realize that the spaces that we spend time in are 92% of the equation of how we actually feel in a given day. Now, what we do in those spaces, how we act in them, the things that we focus on, obviously have a huge impact, right? But for us, that guiding principle was really, if we spend almost all of our life inside, how do we build spaces that are designed, and how do we program spaces that are designed to naturally help us feel better, right? And that comes from infrastructure, your air, your water, your lighting. It comes from design and materials and what you select. It comes from natural light and windows. It comes from a variety of things. But as I mentioned earlier, all that starts to fall apart if you don't actually have the services and experiences that bring it to life, right? You're less likely to, you're 200% more likely to achieve a health goal if you have one or more persons supporting you. That could be Dr. Shaw from The Maximum Life, that could be your girlfriend or your boyfriend, that could be a person that you meet at the club that you go to that happens to work out at the same time every morning and you decide to spot each other while you're working out, right? Those connections can be super deep or they can be quite like interactive or surface level. The point is that you have someone who you're trying to achieve a goal with, right? And so we think about our communities, both what we built in Bay Harbor, what we're building in Coconut Grove, and what we're doing here at the Miami Tropic, as an opportunity to empower people to take greater agency for their health. An opportunity for people to turn where they live into a statement or an opportunity to take better care of themselves. Here, in partnership with John George and with Tara, we're building this world-renowned wellness center. And what's really interesting about this one is it's actually the only well in the world that's only open to owners. It's the first club we've ever done that's exclusive to those who live in the building. But what makes this really special and possible is we've never actually been able to do that before because it takes a lot of people to bring our clubs to life. And if the club is only serving a couple hundred residences, it's really hard to pay those people enough money to get them to keep their job. But through our partnership with Tara, what we're able to actually do is we're actually able to leverage our bigger operations in Bay Harbor and Coconut Grove and our partnership with the Maximum Life to actually power this club where we can deliver the experiences, the services, the programming at the scale we would be able to do at our other clubs. And so it's when we frame the conversation today, I want to start and I want to talk about, and Priscilla, I'm going to start with you, is what is longevity? Truly, like what is it? Like, can we start with like base definition and your explanation of what is longevity? And how does someone actually increase their health span?
Great. there's a lot of explanations differently that we will hear today about what is longevity. Longevity is the medicine that works to increase your health span. It can be anti-aging, it can be precision medicine, but it's nothing more of a combination of you looking at the fundamentals, which Kane was talking about. How do we sleep? How do we exercise? What do we eat? What's the impact of those basic things that we all know that we should be doing have an impact in our lives? And how do we sum with the tools that are available to us to increase that? So we have cutting edge diagnostics now, and anybody who should have access to them. So with blood, genetics, epigenetics, which is how your genetics exams can be altered by lifestyle. And you can have full body MRIs, you can have DEXA scan, you can measure your amount of mass, muscle mass versus fat. You can look into what's your bone density. We can look into today what's the age of each one of your organs inside of your body. And then you can work towards putting that back on time. That's actually possible today. So that is the medicine of longevity. In the end, is what Frank calls good medicine, where we're not gonna look for what's happening with the symptoms, but we're gonna look quite often in what's the cause. How can we bring back something that's not at a perfect functioning to where you should be? Either with tools that come from the well, hyperbaric chamber, cold plunge, red light therapy, the meditating chair, shift wave, which is really good, and we quite often don't consider the impact that meditating, community, trusting, having purpose will have in our health span. So longevity is a combination of things in medicine that we look from your lifestyle, from cutting edge diagnostics to check where are you from your age perspective inside of your body, and how can we pull that back a little bit to guarantee more years moving forward with more quality of life.
So it's interesting. So you know, when I started at the well, I did my first epigenetic test of like my true age, and I was 30 years old, but my true age was 34. Years of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, working in private equity, having sugar-free Red Bulls for breakfast, doing even more crazy, stupid things as a young person. I did a true age test it was before I jumped on peptides, so about a year ago, and I was 38 at the time, and my true age was 34. So I had actually, in the span of 8 years, and this is before I got on the peptides, and before I got into all this advanced medicine, I had actually, over the 8 years of starting a company, which is, I will tell you, not a fun and easy exercise all the time, I actually paused my age. And I paused my age using things like meditation, sleep, movement, food. So Dr. Sean, before we jump into all the fun new techie stuff that we're gonna talk about, can you talk about how someone's done blood work, we know that data is the beginning of everything. So we've done blood work, we got that, but why do we start with these basics, right? Movement, mental health, food, sleep, and why is it important to begin there and not just try to skip that and jump to all the fancy things we can jab and poke ourselves with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So blood work is a reflection of those things, right? So if you're not sleeping well, that's going to manifest in your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your hormones are going to be affected. So really the blood sugar is just telling me, is what you're doing in your lifestyle effective, ineffective, or harmful? So there's no skipping that step. I'll tell you right now, if the body is overly acidic, peptides don't even work. So people who are like super inflamed, peptides may not have really any effect on them. So those pieces have to be in order, and that everything we're doing is going to show the reflection of your lifestyle. And we use those as objective measurements to see, are you moving the needle or not? So that's how I would approach these things.
And in that, I think the way you approach them matters a lot. And I think I'm a victim of like, new supplement on Instagram must buy, right? Like new trend of something must do, right? And I know, like, I have access to people like this who I can actually ask, and it's just like, no, just buy. Like, look, someone says it changed their life, I'm buying it. You know what I mean? And so Matthias and Priscilla, and you guys can answer this together. I think there's one thing, okay, you know your data, you know you have to work on the fundamentals, but why a protocol? And we're big on protocols. The Well's been big on protocols since day zero. We have protocols for everything from a foot rub to a doctor's appointment, right? And we're very thoughtful about that. Why a protocol? And why is it important to actually put a plan in place and follow it versus just sort of spray and pray, grabbing new things as they come?
Thank you.
You guys can
Well,
share.
I didn't say when I presented myself, but I actually started out in business school before I transitioned to Karolinska, which is the top medical university in the northern part of Europe. So I have a foot in both camps. And if you do the analogy, when you do an investment, or if you build a house, or if whatever you do have some kind of protocol. You have things that you follow. You ask your friends, or you've done it before to do it to perfection. When you do that professionally, why don't you have a protocol for your own health? Of course you should have a protocol. And you're not an expert if you haven't done it before, if you're not trained. So you get to meet experts who can tell you and help you and concierge you all through that pathway to find the optimal protocol for you. Because yes, an Advil or a vitamin C, they're the same almost all of them. You wouldn't maybe buy them from China, but from a trusted provider. But when it comes to precision medicine, and when it comes to peptides, when it comes to many supplements and stem cells, they're not all the same. They may look the same, it says the same when you should buy stem cells or peptides, they're just not. You need just, if you do an investment and you do a proper DD, if you buy a property, you check everything out. In the same way, you need to check everything out about that stem cell provider, about those peptides or whatever it may be. And if you don't have the skill or the time, you need to find your masters. And that's why we're here. So that's why you need a protocol.
I also really like a protocol because usually it's really, really difficult to be in a program every day by yourself, that you don't know exactly what's the path. Should I do strength training today? Should I not do strength training today? What's the right approach for me? One of the most interesting things about the difference between longevity medicine and regular medicine is the same approach for every single individual. You go over the counter, medication is the same for everybody. It's very difficult that you're gonna have something that's tailor-made for you. Longevity medicine, which is very close to precision medicine, looks at you as a human being with your specific style, your specific characteristics, so you can have something that is done for you. The same protocol that's for me, it's not the same for my husband, it's not the same that's for Kane, it's not the same that's for Sean. It's completely different depending on each person we have. So the amount of peptides I take, and I do love a good peptide, it's very different from what my mom does, which I also put her on peptides because I wanted to make sure she would be at her best at 85, and off we go. So protocols are also very good, so we don't have to follow a path by ourselves, which is something not easy to do. It's very hard to do things not having a trail or some sort of a plan that we can follow on.
100%. And so, Matthias, and this is actually going to be great for me because I'm just now getting started in this area. This is like, we're talking like, this is the most advanced you can go currently. What the heck is a stem cell?
Wow, great question.
What the heck is a stem cell? And all I remember is like the drama of the 90s in like the news and them being illegal and people going to jail and like all this stuff. Like, but can you explain to me what are stem cells? And then obviously after you explain to them, what do they do for our health and for our longevity?
Fantastic. So how many days do you have? Okay, no, we'll make it super short, or as short as possible. Everybody knows how life begins. Sperm meets egg, fetus, person. That was what was used in the late 90s or in the 90s. It was a lot of aborted fetuses, and it was a big no-go for so many reasons. You also remember the sheep dolly maybe, and cloning, and that was
Yes.
also a big thing. anyone who's serious about stem cells, stem cell treatment, stem cell research today are not using cells from fetuses. Independently of how or where or why they were created, fetus stem cells should not be used for two reasons. It's highly amoral and unethical, but it's also dangerous and may cause cancer. So put that away and make sure if you go overseas somewhere that you don't get fetal stem cells. Dangerous. There are other stem cells. There are several types of stem cells. You have stem cells in every tissue of your body. There are cardiac stem cells, there are muscle stem cells, there are brain stem cells, and then there are kind of the progenitor stem cells that can turn into other types of tissues where you have a certain reservoir over life and then it depletes. The thing is that behind everything there's the clockwork, and that you're getting older, and now it becomes semi-complicated. But if you think back a couple of thousand years ago, when we were living on the savannah, we were not meant to become 40 years of age. We died at 27, and by then we had children and they survived so long. So then we have an immune system that takes care of viruses and bacteria and so on, which is kind of like an antivirus program for a computer. It runs in the background all the time. The problem with the human immune system is that it creates inflammation. Low-grade chronic inflammation, which wears and tears on your body and over time creates aging, creates age-related diseases and chronic diseases. It's a main driver behind chronic diseases such as heart disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, diabetes, whatever it may be. And on top of that, the low-grade inflammation also drives injuries to the immune system and autoimmune diseases. That was not a problem when we died before 40. But today, we're in full health at 40 and beyond, and we can live and we can push 100. Suddenly, the underlying fantastic function of the body has become a problem. And the beauty of one type of stem cell that is called mesenchymal stem cell, MSC. Only remember MSC. There are so many other things today to remember MSC, mesenchymal stem cell. They are anti-inflammatory, suppressing even not only acute inflammation but also low-grade inflammation, the main driver behind aging, chronic diseases, and several types of cancer. On top of being anti-inflammatory, the MSCs are regenerative and can help heal damaged tissue. Whether it is skin damage from UV exposure and a nice day here in Miami, or if you go have a biking accident and you tear a ligament, or if you're in a severe car crash, or if you're under intensive care, they can help regenerate functional tissue instead of fibrosis, because normally when you're injured you get fibrosis, you get scarring, whether it's on the skin or in your heart following a myocardial heart infarction, and they can help rebuild functional tissue. On top of that, they are what is called immunomodulatory. Super difficult word to say if you're a native Swedish speaker. Anyway, immunomodulatory, what does that mean? They modulate the response of the immune system. And what they do, if you heard about the Nobel Prize last year on T regulatory cells, which are the police of the immune system, taking autoimmune disease away, or the rogue antibodies, MSCs also strengthen the Tregs, and thereby they can modulate the immune response and decrease the risk or even treat autoimmune disease.
So, very cool, I won. Okay, so I think one of the things that and this is where sometimes I get things wrong, which I'm very proud to admit. I have been so excited because I'm like, oh my God, the state of Florida is the only state in the US that allows stem cells. And then I called Sean, our head of product, and I was like, oh my God, we gotta do stem cells. She's like, absolutely not in Florida. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, not good enough. And so we don't do stem cell therapy in Florida, even though we're based here. We work with you guys and specifically do our treatments in the Bahamas for our owners and our members that are looking for it. Why is that? What is this Florida law? What is the difference between what you do and maybe some people are doing here?
Great question. To put it in perspective, the reason why I co-founded Cell Labs 5 years ago is that I saw that there is a regulatory change coming all over the world. And that's why I travel all over the world and lecture regulators and politicians, amongst others. And I love what the state of Florida is trying to do, and it is in a safe way to open up for stem cells. Because if it is good stem cells, to date, tens of thousands of patients have been treated, and there are none severe adverse events. That's a crazy thing to say. 5 years into my journey, it still feels strange as a doctor to say, I don't know of any severe side effects of using good stem cells. The problem is that all stem cells are not the same. And if there's one thing that you need to take away from today, because you're going to talk about stem cells over the next few years with your friends, with your family, at dinners or wherever you go, the acronym you need to know is GMP, Good Manufacturing Practice. That is the highest and only level for any kind of pharmaceutical production, whether it's Advil, hormones, chemotherapy, or anything else. GMP. The problem with most stem cell providers is that they don't even claim to apply GMP, meaning that the cells that are being used and are currently allowed to be used in Florida for patients around the corner, they should be used for animals or for bench research. So that means that, yeah, maybe they can work, maybe they don't, but they bring risk to the equation. And as a patient or as a doctor, or if you're working with someone and putting your name or a brand on the line, you don't take risk. And it's fine, it's cheaper. You can go to the corner here or you can go to Mexico, but not all people make it back because there is risk of infection and of rogue cells in different ways. So GMP, and that is what we work with. We stem out of one of the world leading authorities on stem cells, Professor Katerina LeBlanc, the one who actually broke the field wide open. She's a hematologist, blood doctor, showed that the cells could be used to save the lives of 50% of people with transplant complications. And she's behind the research for the first FDA-approved drug in the US, which was approved in December 24. And we're now producing the same cells at Karolinska Institute, the medical university in Stockholm. We're GMP approved by the Swedish FDA, and we're currently providing them to 10 countries on 4 continents around the world, and we're only working with the best doctors and the best partners around the globe. And our closest, we want to, and we're working on, and when we're employing people in the US, but the current state of the Florida law is not a place where we want to act. It's not up to our standard. It is dangerous, and that's why we choose to work elsewhere. Currently in the Bahamas, which is a convenient flight, 30 minutes away from here, where I've been treated 3 times myself.
I'm coming. Immediately. So we learned a bit about stem cells. Dr. Sean, can you sort of break down again the definition of peptides and what a peptide actually does? I think one of the things that's surprised me is the trend of this more advanced longevity medicine has happened so quickly, and people are truly jabbing stuff into the body, not knowing what the heck it is. Like literally, not even, I have friends who are like, "Oh, I'm on BPC 157." I'm like, "Do you know what a peptide is?" They're like, "No, someone just told me it's great for inflammation and recovery," and I'm like, "Okay." So can we just start with basics definition, what it does, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. So a peptide is just a small protein, less than 29 amino acids. It's a peptide. More than that, it's a protein. And we've actually been using peptides in medicine for years. Like insulin's a peptide. There's lots of antibiotics that are peptides. There's blood pressure medications that are peptides. So I feel like the term kind of got hijacked by these more recent treatment options, and so they're just signals. We're guiding the body. We're asking it to do certain things. So there's lots of different peptides out there with different goals of treatment. So like you mentioned, recovery, increasing growth hormone, modulating the immune system. There's some that can stimulate stem cells on the hair and face. So those are kind of, I would say, the most popular things that people are looking for and what they're usually using peptides for. So, we should jump into, yes, why is it important to get peptides from the right place? So, somebody could be making peptides in a bathtub and selling them online. You have no idea about the sterility. Are there heavy metals? Is there mold in there? When were these peptides made? How long have they been in storage? Were they transported the right way? There's no answers to any of these questions. They don't have addresses. Like these. I've had many people come to me who are like, "Will you sell our peptides?" And I'm like, "Are you a pharmacy?" They're like, "No." And I'm like, "No, I'm not selling your. I don't sell peptides. I prescribe peptides. They're a tool to be used." And I feel like they've turned into something more. I kind of feel like ChatGPT has given people the confidence to just be like, "Well, what's the dose?" Whereas normally they would talk to somebody about it, and now they're like, "Well, AI."
Yeah, So I don't want this to be like fear-mongering, because it's not. I mean, these are beautiful, amazing, glorious advancements that are have the potential to truly change our lives and are changing our lives. You know what I mean? I got on the peptide train about a year ago, started very cautiously, have added it on, and the benefits that I've seen, that increases the quality of my life, the benefits to muscle repair and tissue repair and sleep, and I started it right after I got a hair transplant, and like that thing like took off like wildfire. Like there's so many benefits of it, it's just about how you do it and where you do it. I guess the other question, Priscilla, is like, how do I know when it's peptides? How do I know when I should do stem cells? Like, how do I, like, I think there's this, I have a saying that like in America, we don't know how to do anything a little. Like we have, it's like, oh, we're doing it all, you know what I mean? And I even caught myself like waking up in the morning and having 7 different peptides to inject. And I was like, no. This is like, I gotta pull it back. And that was because I could convince doctors who work for me to be like, hey, let me try that, you know what I mean? Which is not a good thing to do. But I'm saying like, how do we know how to modulate? How do we know where to start? You know, I think some of these things can probably overlap. Some of them are completely different. And like, what is your guidance, like where to begin? Outside of like, of course you have to do your tests, you have to do your blood work. But what is the difference and why do people choose one or the other?
Yes, thank you for starting with the blood work. Please do not go and try to take any of the advancement tools, any of them, without at least the basic blood work. Maybe you don't need any peptides or stem cells because you don't need anything regenerative yet, or you're not looking at for the compound youth, which is what I'm interested in. I don't need anything regenerative, but I really want to look younger. So I want stem cells for that, but you need to make sure your body's ready to do so. It's not for everybody. So start with testing to make sure they are applicable to you. Many peptides won't work on certain people. The best way to do it will be like if you really want to get it done properly, genetics. Do a nice genetic test first. Then you will know what actually works for you or not, or what are the things that you need to work on before you go. I would definitely say you should check hormones first. Quite often, you just have hormone imbalance before you jump into the train, and then get your hormones in balance first. And again, to what Matthias was saying, we were born to die much younger. We are now performing at 50s, 60s, like we were at our 30s. The average rate of hormone that the doctor tells you, oh, you're fine, you're just in the range, you're not in the range. You're much older, but performing at a much younger rate. You should be at hormones level of where you were performing. So you're probably not sleeping at night, or you don't love your wife as much. A lot of things that can come up from there. You don't have the same drive, you're tired. Oh, I'm gonna just take peptides and it's gonna make me better.
I have a friend who's a therapist that started saying when people come in and a guy or girl says they want a divorce, if they're after 40, she's like, go get a blood panel, check your TRT or your HRT, and come back to me before we have this conversation.
It's real.
But no, it's 100% real.
Real.
Like it literally, they fall off a cliff, and all of a sudden you hate everything, you can't sleep, you're unhappy. It's not that you've fallen out of love; it's that your body is literally out of whack. And for the longest time we haven't been able to like actually have this conversation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it's a real thing.
Yes, and people still believe that hormones will lead to cancer. You won't. Hormones will make any type of cells grow. Either they are good or bad. And that's why you need to start with the blood work to check your cells first. If you have any inflammation, any traces of cancer, if you have a history, then you start with hormones. I think peptides are really an amazing tool. I love peptides. They're very good peptides today, not for injection. Like I use copper in my face, I don't need to inject myself. It's very interesting, it gives you a glow. It makes a ton of amazing things for your skin. I do cognitive modulation with a nasal spray, which is very interesting. The people that work with me, I'm very much on the Kane side, like let's get things done, rise and shine every day, and very much into the details so I can get, a little bit anxious about things. That keeps me at bay without taking any type of psychotropical medication. And I would love the regenerative side not from an injury perspective, but I think stem cells are great for people with injuries. I think stem cells are great for when we are getting a little bit older and really want to work on the protocol to feel a little bit better and start holding that clock. It's a more advanced therapy, but the fact that you may not have any side effects, it's great. I have quite often discussions with many of my friends because they'd rather buy a bag of $20,000 instead of going on a trip to get 10 years younger. It drives me crazy how we don't understand that today we can actually drive how we feel by modifying lifestyle and using amazing tools. One of the reasons that I was obsessed about partnering with you guys is you go to the well today and you can get everything done in the morning. You go, you work out, you see community, you get longevity procedures done, you go in a hyperbaric chamber, you're gonna have so many good benefits to your body and your brain. You're getting yourself years younger by spending 2 hours in a place. I don't think that's a price for that, right?
No,
So
no.
I will go in kind of that order of things.
Okay, before we wrap up, the last time we did one of these, there were a lot of questions, so I'm gonna leave some time for questions, and if not, I can ask you guys some direct stuff. Does anyone have any questions about some of the stuff we talked about? We'll go back there first. Okay.
A question for the stem cells. So out of the country, they do the IV from vertical stem cells. What's the difference between that and what we can do here?
Wow, 2-minute answer. There are 4 main sources of stem cells that are being used globally. You have bone marrow, which is the most common in science and in the hospitals because it's the safest one. We can get back to why. Then you have umbilical cord, you have placenta, and you have adipose tissue, fat. So there's an abundance of fat in the world, so it's a huge supply. The latter 3, I'm a bone marrow guy, so to state that you know where I come from. If you look at published science, and that's the most important thing to me, to be able to speak from authority. Published science shows that all 4 sources can have the same effect if you have the optimal donor. Okay, so the beauty with Cell Labs working with bone marrow cells is that based on the world-leading science, we know how to pick the right donor. 25 years of science. I spoke to one of the world-leading umbilical cord cell providers. They tested 100 umbilical cords. Out of those, only 4 gave optimal cells. So if you have a random umbilical cord supplier, there's likely a 4% chance that you get good cells. Then there is a difference in risk profile. When it comes to umbilical cord, adipose fat, and placental source, MSCs, they have a small risk, but a significant risk, small but significant risk for clotting the blood, which may lead to pulmonary embolism, which is one of the reasons why not everyone returns from Mexico when they go for stem cells. Is low. It can be handled it can be offset with heparin or blood thinner, but it's risky. Then of course those also they're extremely painful to use because they create a pro-inflammatory response before they turn anti-inflammatory. They express tissue factor. Why do they do that? Why are they pro-coagulatory? Well, if you think about it, placental and umbilical cord cells, there are leftover products from giving birth. What is the biggest risk for mother and child when giving birth? It's bleeding.
Bleeding out.
Yes, bleeding out. So that's why they're pro-coagulatory. Same goes for fat for different reasons. Bone marrow, if you haven't thought about it, bone marrow is the blood-producing organ. So when you take the stem cells from the bone marrow and you put them back in the bloodstream, they're at home. They don't produce clots, and they're anti-inflammatory from the get-go. So you get a better patient or client journey, and you get perfect safety. So that's a kind of the superficial drill on these sources. I can go on for 2 days on that.
Yeah. Question there?
Yeah, another one from Matthias. Is there any type of procedure that's being developed, or is it possible to use stem cells to heal nerve damage?
Oh, is it possible to heal nerve damage? For any type of damage, conservative doctors working in the old healthcare, they say, first we have this protocol and we do everything exactly the same for every patient, which does not work for everyone. And then when they run out of options, 9 months, 12 months down the line, they say, well, okay, maybe you should try stem cells. That is a problem because by then, the injury has already healed with scarring tissue, fibrosis, and it doesn't work. It works to some extent, but not as good as it should. You want, if there is injury or a problem, heart infarction, diabetes, whatever it is, you want to get in as early as possible, within the first few weeks or at least within the first 2 months. Because that is when the body is still healing, you have a chance to help the body heal as if you were 25 again. Which is amazing. So that's when you wanted to use the cells.
Right, but is it possible to do healing of like specific nerves?
Now, as I try to remain on the conservative scientific side, there is no one, if anyone ever promise you that this will work for that, run for it. Yes, we know that done right, there's an increased chance of healing even nerve and nerve damage. For example, stroke. We see better results if the patient gets MSCs at an early stage. If it's too late, it doesn't. It helps, but not as much. So yes, it can. If you have a complete spinal cord disruption, so you're in a wheelchair, maybe not. But then you will have other problems for which stem cells can help take care of other things around that.
Thanks.
In terms of the bone marrow you talked about, is there, so I assume bone marrow for the stem cells is more expensive than the other three? Is that accurate?
Slightly, not relevant.
And then the risk factor with bone marrow, is there a risk with? Okay.
No, but let's jump to that because all of these cell sources, they are donor cells. If you save your umbilical cord, you can use your own, but that's extremely expensive because the only way to bring prices down is to do it at scale, which is what Cellclass does. We're one of the biggest providers of MSCs producing under GP in the world, and that's why we can sell them at a decent price everywhere. Over the past 4 years, we've cut the price by 66% that came. So our cells are now at the same price level as you can find umbilical cord cells and other cell types for around the world. So they come from donors. Is that dangerous? How do you screen the donors? Can they transmit any kind of disease? What if they're vaccinated for COVID or anything else? This is the beauty of MSCs. And this is once again a litmus test that you can use to test the provider if they know stem cells or not. Many providers or treatment facilities say that I want to inject them locally or systemically, and then they will go to the site of injury and create new cells. No, they don't. This is one of the beautiful and very important things. MSCs do not engraft. They don't turn into your tissue. What they do once they get into your body, whether IV or in a joint, is that they activate your own body's healing function, bringing down inflammation, starting regeneration in functional tissue instead of scarring tissue, and working with the immune system. So there's actually now a naming discussion on MSCs, mesenchymal stem cells, to rebrand them or rename them medicinal signaling cells, because that is the way they work. So I often get the question, for brain injury or Alzheimer, do I need to inject them into the brain or into the spinal cord? No, the cells do not pass a blood-brain barrier, but the signals do, because they create exosomes and peptides in different ways. And first they listen to the signals in your body, and then they create the right response to them to have the optimal healing for you.
And this is where it goes back to the very beginning. If you're not feeding your body right, if you're not eating right, if you're not moving right, if you're not sleeping right, your body's ability to heal itself is diminished.
Yeah.
And so it's like, before you go spend tens of thousands of dollars on stem cells, get some basics right, because your actual results are going to be significantly better if you're like actually taking care of yourself in the process.
Absolutely, and I can't leave this room today without stressing this, because I mean, you've already said it, and we should not go down to the very basics, but one of the reasons why I'm here is that I love to work with the best. And what you do, the ecosystem that you create, is one of the most important things in getting proper health and longevity and a healthy lifespan. If you get it all wrong, my cells do not help. I mean, they extend your life a little bit maybe, but if you get it right, that is when we can delay the onset of chronic disease and other things. And to get some interactivity, there are 5 things that you should do. We've mentioned them all, but you should know the importance of them. What is the most important thing you can do for your health? Sleep. Yeah, everybody knows that. Then everybody misses out on what is the second most important.
Hydration?
Eat is number 3 or 4. Exercise is number 4, if not 3.
Community.
Yes, community.
I was waiting.
And yes, that is actually the second most important thing we can do for our health. So building the right community with everything that you need, and including the other 4 as well. It's mind-blowing for your health, and the thing as a doctor that you do want to work with.
Rich knows.
Yeah, so thank you. Prelude to my question, but I'm finally happy somebody said the word community and it came out of you. We kind of said at the same time, you beat me to it though. But yeah, so I'm the Chief Growth Officer for a company out of Prague. You may be aware of it, Healthy Longevity Clinic. We're ex-prize finalists because we started off as a longevity tech fund 16 years ago. I'm brand new at the game, I'm a baby at the game, but I'm learning so much. And I got goosebumps listening to each one of you here because you're speaking like a global CEO. You know, we talk about how personalized, customized, you know, we're data, science-based. If it doesn't show up in the data, it doesn't show up, we're not touching it. But, no, go somewhere else, please, but we're not doing so. We're big on protocols, things of that nature, and we made incredible investments. One called Clotho, we'll talk about that another time, there's research on. But the reason why I was brought in, well, so we're at the Moore, the Design District, which is a private members club, wherever we will welcome other folks. You know.
It's beautiful. I'm a member there. Love it.
Thank you. So I can't wait for you to come and sit with us because you and my USC will nerd out, just like totally, you know. But the one thing that Katie and I spoke about it a bit briefly, first time we met. So I was brought in, and my first forum that I had my global CEO and the doctors, and I had about 80 people in the room, and the talk was so scientific. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm starting to lose some people here, right? I'm trying to track, you know, and I have ADD, so I can tell you that, but you know, it's all over the place. So I realized then that I have to create a program where we can speak to people where they're at.
Yes.
And so I created, just about the domain, longevity is culture. And I also wanted to, the other thing that I wanted to, it's a word that I thought I coined, but I asked ChatGPT to say, it's vague, is ecosystem. Right? The ecosystem,
Yeah.
creating an ecosystem where like-minded people that are here for an enhancement of people's lives in a good, scientific, and healthy way. But the number one thing that I realized with longevity is culture is each month I focus on an aspect of the culture, whether it be culinary, whether it be gemology, fashion, music, and we tie longevity into that. And what's happened there is that we're starting to create a community. And we also know, so that's why I love when you're speaking about it, we also know just the studies, if you study blue zones or whatever, probably the number one indicator, these people some smoke, possibly blind, but the fact that they're living so long is because they have a social community and a bond.
Yeah.
And so I think that if we continue, that's why I love what you're doing at the one, I can't wait more about it, I'm hearing amazing things about it. Kudos. But so my goal is to marry the social with the science, the culture with the clinical, and I think if we can balance that out, you know, we'll get to that point, right? We'll get to the point where people understand longevity and what makes sense in their lives. So you would agree that social and community is
Yes.
Yeah.
And to that, I think getting out of the patient name, being a patient, it's not what we should want. Being told to take a medication without knowing exactly why or what's going to do it for us, and being in charge of our health and waking up and knowing this is what I want, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I want to look for, this is why I take care of myself, and being surrounded by people that really want that. I was very happy there was a Gestalt guy, I don't know if you know the Gestalt guy, who was talking about the new ways of being wealthy is actually to be able to be healthy, which we don't do it quite often. We're so worried about getting everything done every day. The health stays on the side. When we are able to live up to hundreds today, why are we not going to do that? And it's hard because we need to go to bed early and wake up before the sunrise and, you know, exercise. I know, you know, it's a drag. Going to the gym, I follow your posts, you know, but it is so good, you know, when you feel that muscle pain. I had this discussion last week with somebody where, well, I don't like doing strength training. You know that when you're feeling that pain in the muscle, it goes directly to your brain to create new cells. So your peak of intelligence of the day is when you get out of the gym after doing strength training. Don't you feel so good about it? You can get out of the gym smarter, sit down and get anything done because you spend an hour working out.
that's priceless. So why not, right? Get that combined with all the
And
things we love.
ironically, to your point, is one of the things that I'm discovering, just working, that being in the atmosphere of the board, you know, we talk about your health is your wealth, right? It's a lot of the high performance people that are most interested in longevity and not living while they may be wealthy in other areas, they're certainly not focusing on their health aspect, which, you know, and our motto is we can never just tell you how long you're gonna live, right?
Yep.
That's God and maybe Nostradamus, I guess, all right? But we can at least try to say you can live a healthier, happier, longer, if I use protocol. And that's, it seems like I'm blown away by this. I feel like this is great.
Thank you.
On that note, we got to wrap up. We're a little over. I want to say a couple things. So one, all of our buyers and owners here actually get preferred access pricing and programs with the Maximum Life. So for our sales team here that's in the room and for anyone working on this project, that starts today. It doesn't start when they close. So it starts today. They can access the programs today. They get very, very generous preferred pricing from the Well. They're able to participate in those programs. And so that's something that if you have owners in Miami, you have people who want to travel in to meet with this team, who want to start doing those things, they can do that for the next 3 years while they wait for the building to be finished. It doesn't have to start when they know that that's available to them today. And we'll make sure, Sean and I, that we get you this information now that we're actually up and live in Miami. And then the last thing I'll just say is, we use the word community a lot. This here is community. Literally, like sitting within 6 feet of each other, feeling like literally your heart pulsing next to a room, spending time. And so what I'll say is, I've been deep down a rabbit hole of just loneliness. I had a friend's son who committed suicide. I'll just be totally blunt. He committed suicide at 22 years old. And this isn't something that's actually rare. It's happening across the country at an alarming rate because he felt lonely. And it's been a really hard thing for me to process over the past couple weeks. But what I've decided is the best way I'm gonna do it is I'm never gonna be in a room like this again, and not remind someone that there are people around you, that you can say hi, you can introduce yourself, you can make a friend here today. I can be your friend today, Priscilla will be your friend today, anyone up here will be your friend today. And it's just now more important than like ever before. And so I thank you for being a part of our community. I thank you for sharing time with us and space with us. On that note, enjoy. There's coffee, there's snacks, there's food. I would even say enjoy a chocolate croissant because joy matters and it's not all about that. 100%.
In moderation.
In moderation, one. I'm not saying multiple, one. And thank you for coming, team. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.